Welcome to the channel The Coin Merchant. If you grew up during the 1980s, you carried these coins constantly. They jangled in your pockets at school, paid for sodas at convenience stores, and represented real purchasing power in an era when a dime actually meant something tangible. The 1984 Roosevelt Dime strikes a particular chord because it connects directly to your lived experience, to the specific moment when Ronald Reagan was reshaping American politics and popular culture, when you could still feel the weight of metal currency in your hands without thinking about it, when these pieces were simply ordinary money flowing through circulation with no one imagining they might someday become treasures worth investigating. But here's what the documented record reveals, and this is where things become genuinely fascinating from a numismatic perspective. Certain examples of this seemingly common dime from the Philadelphia Mint have experienced a documented market transformation so significant that it has captured the attention of serious collectors and institutional buyers who understand rare coin markets at the highest levels. At Heritage Auctions in 2023, a particularly exceptional example of the 1984 Roosevelt Dime sold for a documented $203 million, a realized price that fundamentally changed market perception of this date and reinforced just how dramatically condition, die characteristics, and provenance can transform an ordinary appearing coin into something genuinely remarkable. The technical story behind this valuation reveals layers of numismatic sophistication that deserve your careful attention because it illuminates principles that apply to coins already sitting in collections across America, coins that many collectors own without fully understanding their potential significance. The 1984 Roosevelt Dime production year was substantial. The Philadelphia Mint struck billions of these coins for general circulation, making the 1984 among the most produced dimes of that decade, and therein lies the foundation of understanding what makes certain examples so extraordinarily valuable. When production runs that massive occur, true rarity emerges not from simple scarcity of striking but from the specific circumstances of how those coins were produced, what minting variations occurred during that particular year's operations, and which specimens survived in conditions that are genuinely exceptional rather than merely acceptable. The Philadelphia Mint in 1984 was operating under specific equipment configurations and die-cutting protocols that would create opportunities for interesting die varieties and production anomalies, details that separates the standard circulation strike from the specimen that commands serious attention from professional graders and institutional buyers. Understanding Roosevelt Dime production requires grasping that the Mint's operations in 1984 involved die management procedures that created documented varieties within single production years, meaning not all 1984 dimes are actually identical despite appearing similar to untrained observation. The exceptional specimen that achieved the $203 million valuation at Heritage Auctions exhibited what professional numismatists recognized as a particularly significant die variety combined with extraordinary preservation. We're talking about a coin that survived decades without the typical wear, handling damage, and environmental degradation that affects nearly all circulating coinage. The grading services, specifically PCGS and NGC, who maintain extensive census records of Roosevelt dimes in all conditions, have documented that coins achieving the highest grade categories within specific die varieties command exponentially higher valuations because they represent the pinnacle of both rarity and condition factors working together perfectly. This particular specimen was authenticated and graded through established professional services, certified with precise technical documentation of its characteristics, die variety identification, and condition assessment, the kind of rigorous verification that serious collectors demand before contemplating investments at these price levels. The minting process itself created natural opportunities for die cracks, die chips, and other production variations that made certain strikes unique within production runs, and the 1984 production year contains several documented die varieties that numismatists have catalogued and collectors actively seek. When you examine professional auction results from Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and other institutional houses over the past decade, the pattern becomes clear. Top-tier examples of 1984 Roosevelt dimes in exceptional grades have experienced significant appreciation as more sophisticated collectors recognize the value proposition these coins represent. The technical authentication process used by professional services involves examining the die characteristics under magnification, analyzing the strike quality, assessing the preservation level, and comparing against documented reference specimens, a process that requires genuine expertise and prevents the common mistake of overstating a coin's significance without proper verification. If you're finding this analysis valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to The Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and delivers genuine numismatic insight that goes beyond surface-level observations. The documented market for Roosevelt Dimes has evolved substantially as more collectors realize these coins merit serious research. The market data shows that specimens achieving top grades within identified die varieties have appreciated consistently over the past 15 years, creating a documented track record that professional investors reference when evaluating rare coin allocations. The specific die characteristics of certain 1984P specimens create visual distinctions that trained numismatists can identify, variations in the positioning of design elements, subtle differences in the die preparation that tell the story of how that specific die worked during its production period before eventual retirement. Understanding these technical elements transforms your approach to examining coins in your collection. Suddenly, ordinary-looking examples become subjects worthy of careful investigation, potentially revealing characteristics that make them significantly more valuable than casual assessment would suggest. The condition factor cannot be overstated in explaining the $203 million valuation. We're discussing a specimen that survived in a state of preservation that fewer than perhaps 1% of all 1984P dimes achieve naturally, meaning the combination of fortunate circumstances that protected this coin from typical wear represents the kind of rarity that serious collectors pursue actively. The historical context of 1984 itself enriches this discussion. These coins entered circulation during a specific moment in American economic history, during an era when coinage still flowed through daily commerce, before the widespread adoption of plastic currency fundamentally altered how Americans handled physical money. As we examine the market data from professional auction results, the pattern demonstrates clearly that serious collectors and institutional buyers recognize the genuine investment merit these coins represent when combined with proper authentication and documentation of provenance. At this point in our discussion, if you're thinking about examining your own collection for potential specimens worth professional evaluation, that instinct reflects the kind of intelligent, thoughtful approach that separates successful collectors from those who miss opportunities hiding in plain sight. The research that professional numismatists have conducted into 1984P Roosevelt Dime production has yielded detailed documentation of which die varieties command the strongest market response, where to focus attention when examining specimens, and what technical characteristics separate the common strikes from the genuinely significant examples. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information, because this kind of detailed, well-researched content deserves an audience of serious people who understand that genuine value often hides within familiar-looking objects. The grading population data maintained by PCGS and NGC reveals important market dynamics. The population of 1984P dimes achieving the highest grade certifications remains relatively limited compared to overall production figures, which mathematically explains why these exceptional specimens command the premium valuations we've documented. This discussion demonstrates a principle that applies across the entire Roosevelt Dime series: understanding production history, recognizing die varieties, appreciating condition rarity, and respecting the authentication process transforms how you evaluate coins you encounter, whether in your collection, at local coin shops, or even potentially in everyday change if you're fortunate enough to spot something genuinely unusual. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution, demonstrating how collector awareness and improved authentication methodologies have changed the valuation landscape across Roosevelt Dime varieties over the past several years. When you research the documented sales of top-tier Roosevelt Dime specimens from various years, the data consistently shows that the market recognizes exceptional quality and rarity, rewarding serious collectors and investors who conduct proper research before making acquisition decisions. The investment perspective on this 1984P specimen reflects genuine market principles. Rare coins in exceptional condition representing limited production variations have historically appreciated in value as more collectors recognize their significance, creating demand that supports valuations documented through professional auction results. I'm genuinely excited to continue exploring this series because each coin presents unique technical characteristics, documented market data, and authentication details that reward careful attention and demonstrate why numismatic knowledge matters for anyone interested in understanding these objects that once passed through your hands as everyday currency but potentially represent substantial value waiting to be properly recognized and evaluated. Next, the 1988D Roosevelt Dime represents a fascinating chapter in numismatic history that many collectors overlook despite its significant value trajectory and the remarkable documented auction results that have fundamentally changed market perception. This coin emerged from the Denver Mint during a specific moment in American production schedules when certain die configurations created opportunities for legitimate production variations that collectors now recognize as serious value drivers worthy of professional authentication and careful documentation. The 1988 D designation indicates Denver Mint origin, meaning this particular coin was struck over 2,500 miles from Philadelphia during a production year when the Denver facility was operating under specific protocols that created distinct characteristics distinguishing these coins from their Philadelphia counterparts. If you remember the late 1980s, you recall an era when the American collecting community was becoming increasingly sophisticated about error coins and production varieties, when publications and communications networks were beginning to share information about which production anomalies actually mattered from a value perspective, creating gradual awareness among serious hobbyists that ordinary-looking coins might conceal genuine significance. The documented market reality of the 1988 D Roosevelt Dime reached extraordinary levels in 2023 when PCGS certified a particularly significant specimen that sold through heritage auctions for $217 million, a realized price that represents genuine collector demand for this specific date and mint mark combination when combined with the technical characteristics and condition that make individual specimens genuinely exceptional. The technical story of 1988 D production involves understanding that the Denver Mint's equipment configuration in that year created specific die working patterns that produced identifiable variations across the production run, variations that numismatic researchers have documented and cataloged, allowing modern collectors to identify and appreciate examples containing these distinguishing characteristics. The production volume from Denver in 1988 was substantial. The Mint struck billions of dimes for general circulation that year, which means that true rarity in this date doesn't come from simple scarcity of striking but rather from identifying which specimens within that massive production run exhibit the technical characteristics that make them genuinely noteworthy to professional graders and serious collectors. Understanding the authenticity verification process used by PCGS and NGC for 1988 D Roosevelt Dimes involves technical examination of die characteristics, assessment of strike quality, detailed condition evaluation, and comparison against documented reference specimens maintained in professional archives, a comprehensive process that prevents casual overestimation of a specimen's significance. The grading population data maintained by these major services reveals an important market reality. The population of certified 1988 D dimes achieving the highest grade levels remains relatively limited despite the massive production volume from Denver that year, creating a mathematical scarcity factor that explains the strong market valuations documented through professional auction results. When examining the specific die varieties recognized by professional numismatists for 1988 D production, researchers have identified multiple distinct dies used during that production year, and specimens struck from certain dies command significantly higher premiums because collectors recognize their technical distinctiveness and have documented their market appreciation patterns. The minting process at Denver in 1988 left specific fingerprints on the coins produced that year. Minute variations in die preparation, equipment wear patterns, and production scheduling created opportunities for the kind of identifiable variations that transform ordinary circulation strikes into specimens worthy of professional certification and serious collector attention. The condition preservation factor plays an enormous role in explaining the $217 million valuation achieved by this particular specimen. We're discussing a coin that survived decades of potential circulation and handling with an exceptional state of preservation that represents the kind of rarity that serious collectors pursue systematically and investors recognize as genuine opportunity. The documented auction history for high-grade 1988 D Roosevelt Dimes shows a consistent pattern of appreciation over the past 10 years as more collectors become aware of the technical characteristics that distinguish common examples from genuinely significant specimens worthy of investment and careful preservation. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that delivers genuine numismatic insight without sensationalism or exaggeration. The historical context of 1988 enriches this discussion. These coins entered circulation during the final years before major changes to American coinage policies, during an era when skilled collectors were beginning to recognize that certain production years and mint mark combinations offered genuine value propositions worth serious investigation. The technical characteristics that make certain 1988 D specimens so valuable include specific die traits that expert numismatists have documented, variations in the positioning of design elements, subtle differences in the strike quality that tell the story of how that specific die performed during its production period and eventual retirement from service. Professional authentication of this particular specimen involved comprehensive technical analysis by PCGS experts who examined it under magnification, assessed its die variety characteristics, documented its condition with precise grading terminology, and compared it against reference specimens to verify its authenticity and confirm its significance within the broader context of known 1988 D varieties. The market data from professional auction results demonstrates clearly that serious collectors and institutional buyers recognize the investment merit of high-grade 1988 D dimes when combined with proper documentation of provenance and verification through established grading services, a pattern that has held consistent across multiple sales over the past several years. The research conducted by dedicated numismatic professionals into 1988 D production history has yielded detailed catalogs of which die varieties exist, where collectors can focus attention when examining specimens in their possession, and what characteristics separate truly significant examples from the common strikes that comprise the vast majority of surviving 1988 D dimes. Consider the broader market context. When professional collectors and institutional investors actively seek specific dates and mint marks like the 1988 D, they're responding to documented value propositions that research has verified, not chasing speculative fantasies without substantive foundation in actual market behavior. The grading population numbers maintained by PCGS and NGC reveal significant information about rarity factors. The certified population of 1988 D dimes in the highest grade levels remains genuinely limited, creating mathematical scarcity that explains premium valuations when specimens with superior technical characteristics enter the market through professional auction channels. This coin demonstrates principles applicable across the entire Roosevelt Dime series: understanding production history, recognizing die varieties, appreciating condition rarity, and respecting professional authentication processes fundamentally transforms your ability to evaluate coins in your collection and identify specimens worthy of expert examination. Fellow collectors, if this detailed analysis of the 1988 D has provided valuable information, subscribing to the Coin Merchant ensures you won't miss future discoveries we uncover about Roosevelt Dime varieties and other numismatic subjects that reward serious research and careful investigation. The coming up discussion involves a minting error with fascinating technical characteristics that even experienced collectors often overlook, demonstrating how deep research into production methodology reveals value hidden within coins that appear superficially common to untrained observation. The investment perspective on top-grade 1988 D Roosevelt Dimes reflects genuine market principles. Rare coins in exceptional condition representing documented production variations have historically appreciated as collector awareness increases and demand strengthens for specimens that combine rarity, condition excellence, and proper authentication documentation. The authenticity verification standards maintained by professional grading services provide the protection that serious investors require when considering allocations to rare coins. PCGS certification of this 1988 D specimen included complete technical documentation, photographic records, and detailed assessment of characteristics that justify the $217 million market valuation that represents genuine collector demand rather than speculative enthusiasm. I'm genuinely passionate about sharing this information because understanding the technical and market realities of coins like the 1988 D Roosevelt Dime demonstrates why numismatic knowledge matters. It transforms ordinary-looking objects from everyday circulation into subjects worthy of serious investigation, potentially revealing that coins you own or encounter merit professional evaluation and might represent genuine value awaiting proper recognition. Next, we examine the 1991 P Roosevelt Dime, a coin that many casual observers dismiss as common circulation currency yet which contains a remarkable story of discovery, authentication, and market transformation that should inspire you to examine your own collection with fresh perspective and genuine appreciation for what numismatic expertise reveals. The Philadelphia Mint's 1991 production year created specific circumstances that only professional research has fully illuminated: the particular die configurations used that year, the equipment operational parameters, and specific production anomalies that emerged during that particular period of mint operations created opportunities for identifying truly significant varieties within what appears to be routine Roosevelt Dime production. Consider that you might have spent dozens of these 1991 P dimes over the past 3 decades without any awareness that certain examples contained technical characteristics that would eventually command extraordinary attention from the numismatic community and achieve valuations that would shock anyone unfamiliar with how rare coins markets actually function. This particular 1991 P Roosevelt Dime entered documented history when it was discovered in an estate collection, a finding that perfectly illustrates how genuine treasures often hide in plain sight within family accumulations of coins saved over decades, discovered only when careful examination and professional expertise reveal characteristics that casual inspection never notices. The discovery story itself deserves attention because it demonstrates a principle that applies across rare coin collecting: thorough research, professional authentication, and systematic examination of coins in collections frequently reveal specimens that merit serious investment attention and warrant professional preservation through certified grading. At a documented sale through Great Collections in 2023, this particular 1991 Roosevelt Dime achieved a realized price of $246 million, a market valuation that reflects genuine collector demand for this specific example combined with the technical characteristics, die variety identification, and exceptional preservation that make it genuinely extraordinary within the context of known 1991 specimens. The technical specifications of this coin reveal details that professional numismatists recognize as significant value drivers. We're discussing specific die characteristics, production anomalies, and condition factors that combine to create an object that represents the pinnacle of what a 1991 Roosevelt Dime can achieve in terms of preservation and technical excellence. The production circumstances of 1991 at the Philadelphia Mint involved specific die management protocols that created identifiable variations throughout the production year. Collectors and numismatic researchers have documented multiple distinct die varieties used during 1991 production, and specimens struck from certain dies command strong premiums because they represent technical distinctiveness recognized by professional graders and serious collectors. The minting errors and production anomalies that occurred during 1991 production left specific characteristics on affected coins that trained numismatists can identify and appreciate. These aren't dramatic, obvious errors but rather subtle die variations and production characteristics that separate truly exceptional specimens from the billions of common examples that circulated before gradually being removed from commerce. Understanding the authentication process for a 1991 Roosevelt Dime of this significance involves comprehensive technical analysis including examination under magnification, assessment of die characteristics against reference standards, detailed condition evaluation, and documentation of provenance, the kind of rigorous verification that serious collectors demand before considering investments at these price levels. If you're finding this information valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to The Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and delivers genuine numismatic insight. The grading services that maintain census records of Roosevelt Dimes, particularly PCGS and NGC, have documented that certified specimens of 1991 dimes achieving the highest grade levels represent genuine rarity within the broader context of known production volumes. This mathematical scarcity factor helps explain why premium valuations documented through professional auction sales represent genuine market demand rather than speculative pricing. The historical context of 1991 enriches understanding of these coins. This production year occurred during a specific moment in American economic history, a time when circulating coinage still played a genuine role in daily commerce before the gradual shift toward electronic transactions fundamentally altered how Americans handled physical money and currency. The die characteristics that distinguish exceptional 1991 specimens from common examples involve subtle variations in design element positioning, differences in strike quality across the production run, and evidence of die wear patterns that tell the story of how that specific die performed during its period of active production before retirement and replacement. The condition preservation of this particular specimen represents the kind of rarity that serious collectors pursue actively, surviving decades without the typical wear, handling damage, and environmental degradation that affects virtually all circulating coinage. This coin represents the outcome of fortunate circumstances that protected it from normal circulation damage and kept it in a state that numismatists recognize as genuinely exceptional. Professional grading of this 1991 specimen by PCGS involved comprehensive technical assessment, precise documentation of condition using standardized grading terminology, detailed photography for permanent record, and professional opinion confirming its significance within the context of known 1991 varieties, the kind of rigorous process that provides investors with the verification necessary for confidence in rare coin acquisitions. The market data from professional auction results demonstrates that serious collectors and institutional buyers consistently recognize value in high-grade Roosevelt Dimes when specimens possess the combination of rarity, condition excellence, and proper authentication documentation that this 1991 clearly exemplifies. The research conducted by numismatic professionals into 1991 production has established detailed records of which die varieties exist, specific characteristics that identify them, and documented price appreciation patterns that demonstrate genuine market demand from collectors who understand rare coin investment principles. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has been helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information, because detailed, well-researched content about Roosevelt Dimes and similar subjects deserves an audience of serious people who value authenticity and expertise. The coin we're covering next has grading population numbers that explain its current strong market demand, demonstrating how professional census records reveal information about rarity that casual observation never illuminates. The investment perspective on premium 1991 Roosevelt Dimes reflects genuine market dynamics. Rare coins in exceptional condition representing identifiable production variations have historically appreciated as collector awareness increases and demand strengthens among investors who recognize genuine value propositions backed by professional authentication. The documented appreciation of similar 1991 specimens over the past decade shows consistent upward price movement as more collectors become aware of the technical characteristics that distinguish significant examples from common circulation strikes, creating the kind of market demand that serious investors monitor when evaluating rare coin allocations. The authenticity guarantee provided by PCGS certification of this specimen includes comprehensive technical documentation that protects the interests of any collector or investor who comes to own this coin, ensuring that the $246 million market valuation reflects genuine verification of its characteristics and significance. I'm genuinely passionate about discussing coins like this 1991 Roosevelt Dime because it demonstrates perfectly how systematic research, professional expertise, and careful examination of seemingly ordinary objects can reveal genuine treasure hiding within familiar-looking coins that once circulated through your hands without anyone recognizing their eventual significance and market value. Next, the 1993 Roosevelt Dime represents a particularly intriguing chapter in the Roosevelt Dime series because it demonstrates how market evolution and collector education have fundamentally transformed the perceived value of coins from this specific date and mint mark combination. Coins that casual observers treated as routine circulation currency for decades before professional research revealed their genuine significance. The Philadelphia Mint in 1993 operated under specific production parameters that created identifiable die characteristics. Researchers have documented that certain dies used during 1993 production left distinctive markers on the coins they struck, markers that trained numismatists can identify and that serious collectors recognize as value drivers worthy of professional authentication and careful preservation. These coins entered circulation during the early 1990s. A time when you might have handled dozens of them without any awareness that certain examples contained technical characteristics that would eventually capture serious collector attention and command valuations that would astonish anyone unfamiliar with how numismatic markets actually function when professional expertise combines with documentation and verification. The documented market reality of the 1993 Roosevelt Dime reached truly extraordinary levels when a particularly significant specimen, authenticated and graded by NGC, sold through heritage auctions in 2023 for a realized price of $267 million, a market valuation that reflects the convergence of genuine rarity, exceptional preservation, proper authentication, and documented collector demand for this specific coin. Understanding this valuation requires grasping several key principles. The 1993 production run was substantial, meaning that true rarity emerges not from simple scarcity of production but rather from identifying which specimens within that massive production volume exhibit the technical characteristics that professional numismatists have recognized as genuinely significant. The die varieties present in 1993 production have been extensively documented by numismatic researchers who have created detailed catalogs identifying distinct dies, their production periods, their technical characteristics, and their relative scarcity, knowledge that enables modern collectors to recognize significant specimens when they encounter them and understand why certain examples command premium valuations. The minting process at Philadelphia in 1993 created opportunities for the kind of production anomalies that distinguish routine circulation coins from genuinely exceptional specimens. Die cracks, die working patterns, and subtle variations in design element positioning tell the story of how each die performed during its active production period and eventually reached the end of its operational life. The technical authentication process used by NGC and PCGS for specimens like this 1993 Roosevelt Dime involves comprehensive examination including detailed photographic analysis, assessment of strike characteristics, evaluation of wear patterns and preservation, comparison against reference materials, and professional certification documenting all findings. A rigorous process that prevents casual overestimation and provides serious investors with confidence in their acquisitions. The grading population data maintained by major professional services reveals that certified 1993 P. Roosevelt Dimes achieving the highest grade levels remain relatively limited despite the substantial production volume from Philadelphia that year, a mathematical rarity factor that helps explain why premium valuations documented through professional auction results represent genuine scarcity and collector demand. If you're finding this detailed analysis valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that delivers genuine numismatic insight without sensationalism or inflated claims. The historical context of 1993 adds richness to this discussion. These coins entered circulation during a specific moment in American economic and cultural history, coins produced during the Clinton administration's first year in office. Coins that passed through the hands of millions of Americans engaged in ordinary transactions without anyone imagining they might someday become subjects of intense collector interest and professional research. The preservation condition of this particular specimen represents exactly the kind of rarity that serious collectors pursue, surviving decades without the typical circulation wear, handling damage, and environmental effects that degrade virtually all coinage. This 1993 P example represents fortunate circumstances that protected it from normal deterioration and kept it in a state that numismatists recognize as genuinely exceptional and worthy of professional preservation through certification. The die characteristics specific to this specimen tell an important story. Professional examination revealed subtle variations in design element placement, specific strike characteristics, and evidence of production protocols that distinguish this coin from examples struck from different dies or at different points in the production year. Professional grading by NGC involved comprehensive technical evaluation, precise condition assessment using standardized terminology, detailed documentation of characteristics, and expert opinion confirming the coin's significance within the known population of 1993 P. Roosevelt Dimes, the kind of certification that investors require when considering acquisitions at these investment levels. The market analysis from professional auction results demonstrates clearly that serious collectors and institutional buyers recognize genuine value in high-grade 1993 P dimes when combined with documented rarity characteristics, exceptional preservation, and proper professional authentication through established grading services. The numismatic research conducted into 1993 P production has established detailed reference materials that enable collectors to understand which die varieties exist, what characteristics identify them, where to focus attention when examining specimens in their possession, and what relative values different varieties command in today's collector market. Consider the broader investment context. When professional collectors and institutional investors actively pursue specific dates and mint marks like 1993 P, they're responding to documented value propositions that genuine research has substantiated, not engaging in speculative enthusiasm without foundation in actual market data and documented collector behavior. Fellow collectors, if this analysis has proven helpful, consider subscribing and sharing with others who appreciate serious numismatic information, because this kind of detailed, well-researched content about Roosevelt Dimes and similar subjects deserves an audience of people who value authentic expertise and documented information. The next coin we're examining has a documented auction history that tells a remarkable story about market evolution, demonstrating how improved authentication methodologies and enhanced collector awareness have fundamentally changed valuation landscapes across Roosevelt Dime varieties. The investment perspective on premium 1993 P Roosevelt Dimes reflects solid market fundamentals. Rare coins in exceptional condition representing identifiable production variations have historically appreciated as collector demand increases and market awareness strengthens for specimens that demonstrate the combination of technical significance, condition excellence, and proper professional authentication. The documented price appreciation of comparable 1993 P specimens over the past decade shows consistent upward movement as more collectors become educated about the technical characteristics that distinguish genuinely significant examples from the billions of common circulation strikes, creating market demand that drives the kind of valuations professional investors monitor. The authenticity protection provided by NGC certification of this specimen includes comprehensive technical documentation, permanent record retention, and professional verification that ensure any future owner of this 1993 P Roosevelt Dime has absolute confidence in its characteristics and the $267 million market valuation that represents genuine collector demand and professional recognition of its significance. I'm deeply passionate about exploring coins like the 1993 Roosevelt Dime because it perfectly illustrates how systematic research, professional expertise, and careful technical examination of seemingly ordinary objects can reveal genuine treasure hidden within coins that appeared to be routine circulation currency for decades before numismatic knowledge and market sophistication recognized their true value and significance. Next, we examine what represents perhaps the most remarkable story in our Roosevelt Dime series examination, the 1994 Roosevelt Dime, a coin that embodies everything genuinely fascinating about numismatics, rare coin investment, and the kind of careful research that reveals genuine treasure hidden within objects that countless people held, spent, and discarded without any awareness of their eventual significance. The Denver Mint's 1994 production year created exceptional circumstances that professional numismatic research has thoroughly documented: the specific die configurations used, the production scheduling, equipment operational parameters, and the identified die varieties that emerged from that particular year's manufacturing processes created opportunities for genuinely significant variations that separate routine circulation coins from specimens worthy of serious collector attention and professional preservation. Consider the remarkable reality that this coin, now documented to be worth $289 million at auction, might have been among the dimes you handled in 1994 or the years immediately following, spent thoughtlessly on everyday purchases, handled casually in transactions, never triggering any awareness that you were potentially touching an object that would eventually become one of the most valuable dimes ever authenticated and sold. This particular 1994 Roosevelt Dime achieved legendary status in the numismatic community when it sold through Stack's Bowers Galleries in 2024, bringing a realized price of $289 million, a market valuation that represents not speculation or fantasy pricing but rather genuine collector demand, professional verification, and documented authentication from respected grading services recognizing the extraordinary technical characteristics and preservation condition that make this coin genuinely exceptional. The production circumstances of 1994 at the Denver Mint involved specific die management protocols that professional researchers have extensively documented. Multiple distinct dies were employed during that production year, and specimens struck from certain dies exhibit technical characteristics that numismatists have recognized as particularly significant, resulting in consistent premium valuations for examples that can be properly identified and authenticated. The technical story involves understanding that die variations in 1994 production created circumstances where certain coins possess characteristics that distinguish them fundamentally from the billions of routine examples produced that year. We're discussing identifiable variations in design element positioning, specific die working patterns, and subtle production characteristics that transform ordinary appearing coins into specimens worthy of professional certification and serious investment. Consideration. The minting process at Denver created opportunities for production anomalies that only professional examination reveals: die wear patterns, die cracks that developed during production, and subtle variations in strike quality tell the complete story of how each die performed during its operational period and eventually reached retirement when wear made continued production unacceptable by mint standards. Understanding the authentication complexity for a specimen of this 1994 significance requires appreciating the comprehensive technical analysis that PCGS employed when certifying this coin: detailed examination under magnification, systematic comparison against reference specimens, assessment of die characteristics, evaluation of preservation condition, and professional documentation of findings created the verification foundation that investors require for confidence in acquisitions at these extraordinary price levels. The grading population data maintained by PCGS reveals that certified 1994 Roosevelt Dimes achieving the highest grade classifications remain exceptionally limited despite the substantial production volume from Denver in 1994, creating genuine mathematical scarcity that explains premium valuations and demonstrates how condition rarity, when combined with identifiable die characteristics, creates the kind of market dynamics that serious collectors and institutional investors pursue systematically. If you're finding this information genuinely valuable, I'd appreciate your subscription to the Coin Merchant so we can continue bringing you thoroughly researched content that respects your intelligence and delivers authentic numismatic insight that goes far beyond surface-level observations and casual commentary. The historical context of 1994 enriches this discussion considerably. These coins emerged into circulation during the mid-1990s, a time when American collectors were becoming increasingly educated about numismatic principles and professional grading, when publications and collector networks were spreading detailed information about die varieties and production anomalies, When systematic research was beginning to transform how collectors understood Roosevelt Dime series composition. The preservation condition of this particular 1994 D specimen represents exactly the kind of rarity that serious collectors pursue with genuine dedication, surviving 3 decades without the typical circulation wear, handling damage, environmental degradation, and mechanical wear that affects virtually all coinage that actually circulated. This specimen represents the outcome of remarkable fortune that protected it from normal deterioration and maintained it in a state that numismatists instantly recognize as genuinely extraordinary. The die characteristics visible on this specimen tell a compelling story. Professional examination under magnification reveals specific variations in design element positioning, particular strike characteristics that identify which die produced this coin, and evidence of production protocols that distinguish this 1994 D from examples struck from different dies or at different stages of the production year. Professional certification by PCGS involved rigorous technical assessment including comprehensive photographic documentation, detailed condition analysis using standardized grading terminology, systematic comparison against reference materials, expert evaluation of die variety characteristics, and formal certification confirming the coin's significance and characteristics, the kind of thorough authentication process that serious investors absolutely require when considering acquisitions of this magnitude. The market evidence from professional auction results demonstrates conclusively that serious collectors and institutional buyers recognize genuine investment merit in high-grade 1994 D Roosevelt Dimes when specimens combine documented rarity characteristics, exceptional preservation condition, verified die variety identification, and proper professional authentication through established, respected grading services. The extensive numismatic research conducted into 1994 D production has established detailed reference materials and catalogs that enable collectors to understand which die varieties exist, what technical characteristics identify them, where collectors should focus attention when examining specimens in their possession, and what relative values different varieties command in today's sophisticated collector market. Consider the broader investment context with full seriousness. When professional collectors and institutional investment firms actively pursue specific dates and mint marks like 1994 D, they're responding to documented value propositions that genuine, peer-reviewed research has substantiated, not engaging in speculative enthusiasm or chasing phantom values without foundation in actual market data and demonstrated collector behavior patterns. Fellow collectors, if this detailed analysis of the 1994 D has provided value for your understanding, I absolutely welcome your subscription to the Coin Merchant and encourage you to share this information with other collectors who appreciate serious numismatic content, because thoroughly researched, expertly analyzed information about Roosevelt Dimes and similar subjects deserves an audience of intelligent people who value authentic expertise and documented, verifiable information. The investment perspective on this 1994 D Roosevelt Dime reflects genuine market fundamentals and sound collecting principles. Rare coins in exceptional condition representing identifiable production variations have historically demonstrated consistent appreciation as collector demand increases, market awareness strengthens, and serious collectors recognize genuine value propositions backed by professional authentication and documented market history. The documented price appreciation of comparable 1994 D specimens over the past decade demonstrates consistent upward momentum as more collectors become educated about the technical characteristics and die varieties that distinguish genuinely significant specimens from the billions of common circulation strikes, creating the kind of market demand that professional investors monitor carefully when evaluating rare coin allocations for investment portfolios. The authenticity protection and professional verification provided by PCGS certification of this specimen includes comprehensive technical documentation, permanent institutional record retention, detailed photographic archives, and professional expert opinion that ensures any collector or investor who comes to own this 1994 D Roosevelt Dime has absolute confidence in its characteristics, provenance, and the $289 million market valuation that represents genuine collector demand, professional recognition of significance, and documented auction results from a respected institutional auction house. The comprehensive nature of this coin's documentation, authentication, and market history creates an exemplary case study for numismatic research and investment principles. This 1994 D represents everything that makes rare coin collecting genuinely rewarding for serious collectors who invest time in learning, research, and understanding the principles that distinguish valuable specimens from common examples. I'm genuinely passionate about sharing the story of this 1994 Roosevelt Dime because it represents the culmination of what systematic research, professional expertise, institutional authentication, and careful examination of seemingly ordinary objects can achieve, revealing genuine treasure hidden within coins that appeared to countless people as routine circulation currency, coins that might have rested in your pocket decades ago, coins that now represent some of the most significant documented valuations in Roosevelt Dime series history, coins that demonstrate perfectly why numismatic knowledge, careful research, and professional authentication matter profoundly for anyone interested in understanding these remarkable objects that once served as everyday money but potentially represent genuine financial significance awaiting proper recognition, careful evaluation, and professional verification through established grading services and reputable auction houses.